I'm going to move now to our final presentation in the What Does STEM Look Like in Australian Schools, and introduce Peter Corkill, who's the founding principal of John Monash Science School. Australia has a number of specialist science schools, and John Monash was one of our first science schools. As well as being the founding principal of John Monash, Peter is also chairman and founding member of the International Science Schools Network. Peter very kindly hosted all of the PNG and Australian past participants at his school when they visited Australia in 2019. And that visit had a great impact on everybody. Peter, you could talk about many aspects of STEM education today, but we've asked you to talk about the contemporary science electives you run at John Monash Science School. So I'll pass over to you now. Thank you. Just take yourself off mute. We're still not getting the sound, Peter.
Is it okay now?
Perfect now. That's great.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much for having me. It's a great opportunity to talk to you, and hopefully some of the learnings from our journey will be able to help you. I'd like to talk, first of all, a little bit about John Monash Science School. All right, so let me start. John Monash Science School in 2021, it's very easy to think back to 2010 when we opened with 190 students and about 25 staff, and to see the journey since then. As you can see now, we're several years older. There's 680 students and about 60 staff on site now. We're co-located with Monash University. It's one of Australia's premier universities, and we have a very, very strong partnership in STEM with them, and that gives our students some amazing opportunities, actually. And as Kathy mentioned, I'm also an executive member of the International Science Schools Network. Our school is, and I've got the great pleasure of being the inaugural chairman. So all right, now I'd like to talk to you about some significant decisions that we made while we were setting up the school. Probably the single most important thing for us was to make decisions around the sort of people that we wanted to graduate from our school, and what skills and attributes would they have. We are committed to the work in producing the next generation of young Australian scientists. And so we decided to put together a framework of skills and attributes that followed the UNESCO pillars: learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, learning to live together. And that approach has served us very, very well to this day. So the students set their goals under these pillars. They have meetings with their mentors all the time, and they work on an improvement model that continues their journey through science right through the 3 years here. That's our learner development framework. I'll leave these slides with you so you can check them out for yourself at some stage. But as you can see, under each of those 4 pillars, there's 4 statements which are quite explicit about what our learners will become, what sort of attributes they'll have. For example, the first one under learning to do, our learners are adaptable, being able to live effectively with change, skilled in the use of modern technologies, and prepared to meet any challenges with optimism. So they're the sort of young people we're trying to develop. I think this particular approach has served us well. It's every bit as relevant in 2021 as it was back in 2010. And we'd like to think that the couple of thousand graduates that are now out in the field have got these skills and attributes and making a significant difference to the world that they're now in. If we could move forward. The second thing that was really important to us is that we wanted to develop the whole person. We didn't want this school to be just an academic school, worried about ATAR scores and exam marks. We wanted to produce the very best people. And the very best people are well-rounded. They've got lots of skills and talents. And we wanted to give the young people a chance to enhance all of that while they were there with us. Okay, if we could keep going. The third thing, and this is what the first title slide, this Be Brave, we thought, well, look, here we are on the Monash University campus. We wanted our curriculum to be contemporary. We wanted it to be cutting edge. We wanted to give our young people lots of opportunities to do real practical science. And so we have a model of science in Year 10 that I couldn't endorse more highly for you. Our Year 10 Emerging Sciences, which Kathy referred to before. You won't find this curriculum in contemporary textbooks anywhere. It's co-written by our teachers with Monash academics. And as you can see, things like pharmaceutical science, bioinformatics, astrophysics, spectroscopic methods are the sort of subjects that the young scientists really, really enjoy in school. It's certainly pushing many of them out of their comfort zones, but it's giving them some unique opportunities with curriculum. And I've often said in the past that science shouldn't be a history lesson. We should expose our young people to certainly the learnings from science in the past, but show them where science is now. The young people come to us really hungry for knowledge. And it's important that they get to find out where the experimentation, the big innovation, the major projects going on in the world at the moment and what we're moving towards. So we want our science curriculum to be really contemporary and very, very hands-on. So that's a key feature. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the electives in a minute or two. Okay, if we could move on. And the other thing is that our young people are going to move into a world where they are going to be working in teams. So the very last thing I wanted here was students sitting in rows in single seats by themselves. What we wanted to do was to construct an environment which gave our young people a chance to learn in teams and work together in teams. So our default class size here is 50 students with 2 teachers. They all work in groups. The curriculum is meant to be accessible to teams, projects done in teams. Certainly the Year 10 projects that they do, which I will talk about, is done in teams. And having the 2 teachers in the space where they can bounce ideas. I'll give you an example. For example, if we have a chemistry teacher and a biology teacher together in Year 10 science talking about photosynthesis, they'll be able to come at that important work from the expertise of their own areas. And that's one of the big reasons why team teaching has been such a successful move for us. The other thing, I have never worked in a school before where young teachers have learnt as fast as they do here. So working with experienced colleagues in a team teaching situation really brings on our youngsters. We've probably given over the course of the journey 40 to 50 graduate teachers their start in education, and their rate of progress has been exceptional. And many of them are in early part of leadership positions in other schools. And I think the team teaching structure here has had a lot to do with that. If we could go one more. And the last one is a very, very strong house system which anchors our kids. All of our students come from other schools to get to John Monash. Their journey starts in Year 10, of course, and it's a big deal to move schools. Not many students do it in Australia, but they've got to come for a reason. So our house system brings them together in smaller groups. They get to know each other. They know the older kids, every mentor group. And there's 32 of those in the school, have students in years 10, 11 and 12. And the 4 houses are very competitive. It's very Hogwartsy, if that description means anything to you. Lots and lots of fun, lots of competition, but very, very strong bonds between students and teachers. So that's us. That's the school we created to give us the best outcomes in science. So if we can move on. And the last thing is that we really do set time aside. We have 3 hours every Wednesday afternoon for teacher professional learning, and we find that has really been one of the most important aspects of our work over all this time. I'd implore people to think about that sort of a model if you're doing any school regeneration. Teachers working together from 1:30 till 4:30, not working at the end of a long, busy day when they're tired. So we've done that for the last 11 years now, and I think it's probably been one of the major platforms of the success of the school. So I want to talk a little bit about the programs that we have to share with others. We have a little scientist program where primary kids come in every Wednesday afternoon to work with our students doing science experiments. We invite, as you can see in the photo there, 2 or 3 times a year, a group of about 20 students from country Victoria who are interested in science join our school. And of course, the Emerging Sciences Victoria initiative means that we are now actually teaching some of these unique electives to kids right across the state, and most especially in country areas. I think this year we've got about 150 students doing one of our subjects from country Victoria in semester 1. Okay, now there's two things that I thought I'd talk about, 2 innovations that I thought would be really useful for you. And the first one is the extended experimental investigation. If we could move quickly through these slides. The EEI is an independent research project that every Year 10 student does. They work on it for a semester. They can do it in groups or do it individually. All of our, they're taught research method, they're taught how to gather data, they're taught how to judge the efficacy of the results they're getting. They learn to pivot when they don't get the results they think or expect. So there's a whole lot of really fantastic skills that they develop in this. All of these projects are written up and presented in a big science fair in November, now known as the Australian Science Fair. And we have similar schools in every state and territory are sending groups of kids with projects to us. We couldn't run it last year, it was online, but we're very much hoping in December this year or November this year we'll be able to run it. So this is such an important thing for our kids. There's an example of a poster, a project. For a young person to work on a project, either individually or in a small group, to work through the experimental method, to know what setbacks look like and feel like, to be able to pivot and then come up with a really good solution, to get them to present their science at a science fair, because science communication is fundamentally important. It's probably one reason why science isn't taken as seriously as it should be. I mean, here we are, you know, coming through 2 years of a pandemic. It's science that created the vaccines. Why we still have governments that don't believe in climate change is beyond me. But it's this ignorance of the science that we really have to combat, and getting kids to actually defend their position, be able to express in layman's terms, can I say, the importance of what they've found. These are fundamentally important skills when you're developing young scientists. So the extended experimental investigation, the EEI, is pivotal to the success of the school and how the students are able to work their way through. So that's a cycle that shows you quickly how the science works. They explore ideas, investigate, work out the analysis, get feedback, and then put the whole thing together. And if at any stage in that cycle things don't work, well, they can go back or move things forward as they see fit. Okay, so look, I won't go further into that. If people want to investigate, they can later. But some advice we give to the kids, some of our students come in with really strong views. So we have to teach them to hold their views lightly, to listen to others, to see if other people make sense. They might have evidence that really challenges some of your thinking. A great project doesn't have to be world changing. It can be a relatively small piece that contributes something major to a bigger puzzle. And it's just important. I think the main thing that the young people need to get is that their piece of work is well researched, well experimented, conclusions justified, and it all fits into a bigger piece, which is really important. And they learn to do that with their colleagues as well. Science is collaborative. I think we all know that. The last thing I'll talk about is the suite of science electives in our second innovation. We decided we don't have textbooks here in science. That might scare a few of you, but if you look at the list of subjects up on the screen, there's no textbooks that will have all of that. So our curriculum is all online. It's accessible to all of our teachers. We have, for example, if you take one of those aquatic fieldwork studies, for example, that's changed annually over the course of the journey as different teachers take the study, add to it, change some of the things, new innovations come in. So the actual study, each of those electives are quite dynamic because a lot of these are at the cutting edge of science. And as science becomes better known, the science behind, for example, medical physics or biotechnology is becoming better known, then our electives can actually take on board some of those innovations. So they're quite dynamic subjects and the kids love them. Okay, so here's a couple. Astrophysics. I'll leave you to read those. And there's a typical project. Biotechnology is a really popular one. It's designed to get kids ready for senior biology and chemistry. Material science and engineering goes without saying. And with the partnership with Monash University, our kids get to do some amazing things. And the last one, mathematics, looks at nature and beauty, patterns, maths of infinity, platonic solids, all those sorts of different things. Really interesting mathematics that you don't find in textbooks. And I think mathematics is what's been my learning area for 40 years. And it never ceases to amaze me, the logic behind it and the actual beauty of it. And so we get our kids to explore the wonder of mathematics well outside current textbooks, which they love. So, and the last one, Terraforming Mars, is run by a teacher well-versed in geology and looking at the differences and the likes, the similarities between our surface and Mars. And of course, now with the landing of the rover on Mars, we're starting to expand our own understanding of not only the atmosphere, but also the surface on Mars. And the Mars rover is certainly a project that is embraced over at the university. And one of our leading collaborative efforts is with Marian Anderson, who's plays a key role at NASA, as well as a key role here at Monash in geology and also, the geology of planets and versus and similarities with the geology of Earth. So having her expertise with the kids is just amazing. So there you have it. I suppose in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that we had this great gift of being able to set up a specialist science school. I've never had a better job. I've been here for 11 years and can't think of anything better to do, actually. The kids just love it. They are engaged, they're passionate, they love the work, and they're a pleasure to work with. Last year, for the first time, we reached a statistic that I'm really proud of. People like Chris who know me know that I don't carry on about, results for their own sake. But last year, for the first time, we reached 95% of our kids accessing science or technology at university. So we're actually significantly adding to the capacity of science knowledge and study in Australia. Many of our kids from early cohorts are now at PhD level and beyond. So we're really proud of the contribution we're making to the science landscape in the country. We're a relatively small school, 680. We probably have over twice that number apply each year. So we, unfortunately, we can't take them all, but nonetheless, we share our curriculum with many other schools. We have opportunities for young people. And, you know, having been in conversations with Chris and Kathy about, you know, if we can add value to the development of STEM curriculum with you, we'd be happy to play a role in that.
Thank you so much, Peter. And of course, with PNG's national STEM Schools of Excellence policy, it's a fantastic opportunity to make a connection with you, with a specialist science school. I want to really thank you for your presentation today. Personally, I just would love the opportunity to do a course in terraforming Mars or astrophysics.
You have to join the queue, Kathy.
And I'm sure lots of other people feel the same way. And I should have mentioned that when I didn't introduce, when I introduced Chris, I didn't mention that he was one of your foundation staff members at John Monash Science School as well.
Yeah, we taught him everything he knows.
That's fantastic, Peter.